think I'm live. You know, it always takes me a little minute to work out if I am and if anyone's going to join us. I think maybe we're live. I'm hoping you can hear me. I'm hoping somebody might appear that can tell me if you can hear me. But who knows in this world of tech? Sometimes not. So if you are watching live, if you don't mind just dropping me a little, I'm hoping I'll be Donna! I'm live. Can you hear me okay? Just let me know. That would be amazing. So I'm not left here guessing, going, who knows? Maybe in the big wide world. I just got caught in the rain. We went to the park. Hi, Chloe. How you going? Hi, Mel. Hi, Bron. Thank you. I'm here. I'm live. You can hear me. Thank you. I so deeply appreciate that because there's nothing worse. I've been caught out once or twice when my audio just hasn't connected properly. Particularly when I do it on my computer. It's always a bit clunkier than when I do it on my phone. Have you found that? I found that. So tonight, in Embark pre-training number 3, so if you're not familiar with Embark Embodied Leadership is a certification program for practitioners or women wanting to work deeper, more intimately, learn the art of masculine, feminine, energetic movement, embodiment, ownership, magnetic forces of attraction, all of the interactions that make coaching something deeply transformative and healing, as well as I walk you through the pathway of what that looks like. I'm organising a couple of guest lectures in there too, which I'm super excited about. So one of them's with one of the most, they're always going to be my most, favourite practitioners, but one of them is with, I think, one of the great geniuses of story weaving. So if you're familiar with my artwork, a lot of what I do comes back to ancient mythology and storytelling and the art of storytelling, because we're born to be storytellers, to give wisdom and to send it forwards in story. So she's coming in to do a storytelling workshop because I want you to be able to tell your own stories, and I want you to be able to weave the art of story through coaching and through women's circle. So women's circle setup, training, sacred space, formation and flow, structure, what to do when it goes clunky, all of the things. So it's 6 months to do masculine, feminine, energetic movement, embodied coaching, and women's circle or sacred space formation. And you might be thinking, I don't think that I'm going to do any women's circle. I'm just changing the music because I'm a bit like auditory sensitive. And I know, but the ability to create ritual and ceremony, it can be applied in all of the ways for making what you do as an intimate gathering of women or couples, when you create a sacred space that draws people towards it, that has a particular energetic vibration or frequency that the moment people enter it virtually or in person, half your work's already done because they change that or they match that frequency the minute they enter it. That's what sacred space is. It's more than just being able to make a pretty event. I'm prefer the depths to the surface. I love a bit of surface sparkle, but if it's not backed up with a bit of depth, then I'm probably not the gal for you. All right, so tonight is actually one of my favorite topics. You would love to remember the art of story weaving. Yes, and this is most definitely how she tells it, is the ancient art of remembering. And it's more about understanding what an arc of story is and how to tell your own. And it's just so magnificent. You're so excited to start. I'm so excited to start too. We start on the 21st, Chloe, and I'm delighted that you're in there. I really, I know in my heart of hearts that it's 6 months that changes who you are and changes the ability that you have to confidently show up in any space, but most certainly in the space that you're wanting to offer your art or your healing. I know it changes. So that's what it is, 6 months with me. If you're interested in Embark, you can check it out at thepleasurenutritionist.com/Embark Embodied Leadership. think there might be dashes in between. I probably should know that. So tonight, it's a slightly contentious topic. But if you know me well enough, you know I also quite enjoy a bit of a slightly contentious topic. If it's not a robust discussion, what's the point? So tonight is your story, is your gift to heal. And what I mean by that is, let me think about the best way to say that. If you follow me on Nourishing the Mother, you've probably heard this quite a bit, because we talk about the framework of conscious parenting being that it takes you backwards in order for you to be able to move forwards and transcend old wounds. But if you're not familiar with that as a construct, then what I'm talking about here is that on a soul level, we co-create experiences. Things don't just happen to us. So obviously, in the spectrum of humanity, that becomes something that's easy to swallow or something that you can't swallow, depending on how charged that experience is. But what I can tell you out of my 20 years of doing deep work with women, and in the space of birth, which is where you can do 10 years of therapy in 10 minutes of birth. You watch a woman literally through the process of a natural labour, or a labour that progresses as unimpeded as possible. You watch her progress through the years of her wounding. It's one of the most extraordinary sights, honestly. I feel so humbled to have seen so many. So what I can tell you with absolute certainty is that the experiences that we have create within us superpowers. Largely, women don't notice the superpowers that they have now because they're just the way that they are. It's just who they are, how they are in the world, how they show up, what they do. And so there becomes this lack of recognition for what a extraordinary gift, speciality, or superpower this thing or things are that they do, that they've claimed. And as is our human condition, we're pleasure-seeking, pain-avoiding creatures. So largely, the revelations of our soul occur through pain. So the philosopher's stone at its core really is talking about transmuting the leaded heaviness of human experience and transmuting it. And I guess in Nourishing Mother we would say mining. Perhaps in more conscious spiritual or tantric communities you would hear the word transmuted or transcended into the golden light of consciousness, when you're able to claim and heal in those, you heal backwards and you claim forwards. And it's kind of the epiphany moment, you know, those moments you have, your heart just pops and your soul comes alive. And anyway, I'm going on a tangent, but I just want to paint the picture for you that your soul has chosen experiences. It has co-created them with the humans you had those experiences with, in order for you to cement in certain lessons and knowings that couldn't be claimed. The revelation couldn't be found just through lovely light and delicious experiences. The other, I'm changing the music again. You know, I'm a bit sensitive to it. The other, really interesting thing I find about this is that, it depends where you read, doesn't it? But there's all sorts of different versions of how the soul incarnates and when it lands and how it lands within the body. But largely what seems to be a pivotal point is the 7 years. I'm sure everyone's familiar with some sort of 7-year something, right? The 7-year itch, the 7-year transformation, the 7-year soul journey, the 7, 7, 7, 7, right? 7 repeated everywhere throughout innumerable cultures and spiritual paradigms. So this 7 years, whatever experiences, from what I've come to know, and certainly I come at it from more of a Steiner-based philosophy, I suppose, is that at the age of 7, the soul fully descends into the human form. So it's this concept of whatever needs to be cemented for this life's journey. And we all need voids or pain to fuel our values or our desire, our drive, and our purpose. If we don't have a pain that we're trying to heal, or feel a void we're trying to fill, or the not enoughness that we're trying to seek the remedy for, if we don't have a pain, we don't have a thing that we're trying to fill. And it's actually one in the same when we're talking about what our soul's purpose is. So by the age of 7, we've actually experienced our core wounds. So what I will often see, particularly in working with women, is that there's a period, I think there's certain conversations I can't have on this public space, but certainly in Embark we would have them, that age of sort of 5 to 7 is quite pivotal for what the higher self co-creates to kind of slam into that period of time, so that by the time you're at 7 and you have essentially in some ways dulled or lost this intense connection to the soul, that whatever lessons you need, almost a DNA formed in your humanity, that you carry forwards and you continue then to loop as you carry on. So of course, the older you get, hurt love sits upon hurt love. There are always patterns of hurt love that descend backwards. So when you're able to track those, you can come to these core moments where when you're able to enter them, and that's part of what we do in the coaching, is being able to pause space and time and enter them, because as humans we can only absorb 1% of the 100% of information that's available, right? But if you're able to travel back to that moment and see what you weren't able to see, you're able to emotionally equilibrate, so you're not so wounded and holding on to that experience, and see where everything, the universe is continuously seeking symmetry and balance. Everything is there in every one moment. It's just that we can't see it all. So we only take it one way. So when we're able to go back into those moments, which is part of what I want you to be able to do as an embodied healer, because what's the point if you don't go back to the core wound? And it's kind of, I found myself saying the other day, it's a bit like I watch my kids play, like, I don't know if you've played video games with your kids, but I've certainly played a few in my time, and what it reminds me of is Skylanders. If you ever played Skylanders, you have to kind of like travel through these levels, and you have to work together, and you have to pick up gemstones and treasure boxes and all sorts of things, and they let you unlock the next layer. That's how I look at wounds and painful moments, is when we re-enter them and we're able to really see everything that happened there, and we get to kind of claim and pick up that treasure chest, and we get to carry it with us, and it unlocks the next level of where we're going. That's what it's like. So your stories, the ones that you come with, the ones you were born into, the ones that you carry, if you consider you were an egg that existed inside your mother by the time she herself was a 4-month-old fetus growing in the womb of her mother, you spent 5 months in the womb of your grandmother. Isn't that extraordinary? So we are the stories of this lifetime. We're the stories of the lifetimes before it, if you believe in that. And we are most definitely impacted by the stories of our grandmother and our mother, because we ourselves absorbed in their wombs. Isn't that amazing? So we all come with stories. We're born with stories. And then we have the stories of our lifetime, the wounds, pre-7, the implicit memories, pre-3, and then every repatterning of that since then. So I would love for you to consider, and I have a few questions here, is what are the stories that you come with? What are the stories of your family? What did you learn about men? What did you learn about women? What did you learn about relationship and motherhood and who you were? What did you learn about the world? What are the stories or the beliefs, if you prefer that word, that you come with? Where did they come from? Where did you learn them? Who did you learn them from? Where did you pick them up? What are the stories of your childhood? What can you never do? What will you never allow yourself to do? Or what is it that you absolutely have to do? You can't not do it. These are your stories. And these will hide within them your superpowers, your purpose, and your gift to heal in humanity. Truly. We're always designed to experience first for ourselves and then carry those wounds and those stories and that healing ability further out than ourselves. We're always designed to do that. It's never just for us. But if we stop at us, we miss the opportunity to do that. And DAL sounds very similar to hypnotherapy and NLP. I think that the more you look at a variety of spiritual techniques and traditions, you will find a significant amount of overlap, because essentially everything's from source. Everybody has their own ability to bring it forwards, and some of those traditions will make more sense to us than some of us, and that's because that's what we're meant to work with. But I don't think any of it, I don't think anything that I say is particularly revelationary, because I do honestly believe that it all comes from source. There's probably been 1,000 million people before me and around me that have said exactly the same thing. But if my revelation comes through in a particular way that lights a spark within you and then opens you up into something, then that's the point. That's the point for each of you. Yeah, hey Bridgie. It's never just for us. No, it isn't. So, another one I had here, I always write down a couple of points. I'm like, this one makes my heart sing. The lotus flower is born through the mud and doesn't reveal how infinitely beautiful it is until it blooms on the surface. This is the concept that revelation comes through pain. If you consider the revelation is the blooming lotus, it has to come through the muck and the mud and the pain of emergence and the lack of clarity and uncertainty as it winds its way towards some sort of light and surface, and it gets infused by everything it finds in that pond, all of the nutrients, all of the animals, the bugs, the fish that eat it, before it blooms on its surface, and we get to see the magnificence that it is. It was always magnificent, but we couldn't see it, you know? My heart is open to this as I devour the book Braiding Sweet Grass. You're about the third person that's told me recently in ISO they're reading it, so how glorious. I love this synchronicity. I love when we do this stuff. We're like, there's such a collectiveness around this. It's so beautiful. So, if you look back on your childhood or any experiences and you hold the belief, you broke me, then you've forgotten that you have the power to self-heal. Just like our immune system, we are constantly seeking wholeness and healing, constantly seeking to clean up, to be free, to let go. And everything in our world constructs for that very purpose. So before you can claim your superpowers, you've got to have gratitude. You know, every time I'm looking down, I'm changing my playlist. You've got to have gratitude for what it was, right? When we talk about going back and picking up that golden treasure chest to unlock the next level, you've got to be able to go back and love this moment for what it was, for the co-creation of what it brought you as a whole soul. I put down here, have you seen how these wounds are the perfect setup to your ability to coach or to heal or to be a healer? Have you really claimed your superpower? So you have to be able to see it, right? Like, if you you want to do something great, you have to embrace your greatness. And there's a bit of ego involved in that, right? This is a battle I've worked on, feels like my whole life. Because if you can get in spiritual communities, often it becomes very much about the ego is the bad, the wrong. Yeah, everything has a shadow and everything has a light. To see your greatness, you have to be willing to embrace your greatness. And you can't mistake humility for modesty. Quite different. I think I made that mistake for a long time. You know, I wrote this quote down from Carl Jung, and it's actually one of my most favorites in the whole world. Perhaps you'll like it too. No tree can go to heaven unless its roots reach down to hell. You're a tree. Isn't that magnificent? Is heaven and hell, light and dark, yin and yang, ecstasy and pain, depression and elation. We have opposites and equals all of the time, and to some extent they're a tied experience. To be able to bloom the lotus flower, to bloom that tree out, it has to come through the mud and be rooted into the hell from which it creates its life force. It's quite extraordinary, really. So don't mistake humility for modesty, because there is nothing honourable in a tree that shrivels and curls and withers its branches. So you have to have a little bit of ego to embrace your greatness enough that you can stand as the tree or bloom as the lotus. One of the things that I do if I get stuck on this sometimes is write I am about 20 times down my page, sometimes a couple of pages, and then I just get into some unconscious journaling. I am, and I write I am, and I write I am. And you might start off with I am Julie, I am a naturopath, I am a mother, I am a wife, and then sooner or later you start to come to something unconscious. I'm the divine mystic of Mother Earth. I'm here to heal women. Like, you'll start to get these unbelievable sentences where you're like, really? Can I own that? I don't know. But it's come out of something somewhere so great within you. Oh, beautiful Emma Healy, who did the most magnificent tree healing with me. It was heaven. I think that tree one will be speaking to you. I think that's what you're saying, love, too. And hello, beautiful Kasha. Oh, Meals, I'm so glad you're loving this. I love being in a sisterhood where we can just get to have these cool conversations. If I had to choose, I'd never talk about stuff other than this, loopy, sometimes, woo, psychedelic stuff. Talk about it all the time. So I am 20 times is what I do when I get stuck. And then I ask myself at the end of that, so who are you really? Because here's the thing with our ego, right? You have to have enough ego to see your greatness. But not so much that you become completely defined by the plaster cast shell that identity creates. Right? Shadow and light. It can represent freedom, or it can be a cage. So the thing with ego and identity is that if we identify too much with being one thing or one set of things, and we define our self-worth by a perception of achievement or ability to hold on to or live up to or be, those particular things, then we miss the opportunity for growth, because growth will always be like the baby, or like the baby chicken in the egg. When it's grown enough and the shells become too tight, it's going to need to do the hard work of cracking the shell to be reborn. And we're continuously going through a life-death life cycle that is the evolution of humanity, and most definitely the feminine. So when the world and the way that you belong with it has grown too small, it will be time to crack open that shell, and revelation comes through pain. Birth comes through pain. Spiritual ecstasy is achieved through the pain of deep and open surrender. Revelation and pain are not separate experiences, though the meaning you make out of them will define the gold that you carry forwards and how well you transcend that philosopher's stone. So who are you really? Who are you really? Because every time I get too attached to being one version of something, I create intentionally a stoic practice in which to remind myself who I am and who I'm not. Because I am and I am not all of those things. I know I'm getting too loopy now, but who are you really? Because I imagine you're infinity. So, who are you really? And then what really is your purpose? Because the other thing with purpose is we think we have one life purpose, and we might have a thread that strings it together, but the truth is our purpose will continue to evolve. Particularly if you're a feminine being, trajectory, a straight line from A to B, it ain't gonna be your way. It's probably gonna look a lot more like this. Or it's gonna look a lot more like this. I think purpose comes in layers. I think of it like concentric circles, like a ripple on a pond. And we climb each one of those. It's almost like the train, isn't it? I think I think I've got, oh my God, I see it. Holy fucking shit, I don't know who I am anymore. Don't you think? I think. I always laugh at myself, though it's a deeply painful experience of feeling like, I had it, and now I don't have it. So at those times I do this practice, and I remind myself that if I'm really evolving and letting go of one way of being, then the world that I belong to has grown too small, and it's time to carry forwards that which I need and let go that which I don't. Knowing that those circles lead me closer and closer like the original ripple, till maybe one day I find the core essence of what I'm here to do. Maybe not. Sure as shit gonna enjoy the ride. So I have this point on here. Everything is a story. See this with compassion and gentleness. I think I wrote this just for me. Because I find myself, particularly when I work with couples, it's one of my greatest joys, because to be able to really see two sides of the same story is perhaps the greatest gift and human revelation you could possibly have. It's the most magnificent insight into humanity. Honestly, it feels like my utter gift to be able to do that work with couples. And what it has taught me is just, I feel like the laughing Buddha sometimes when I'm like, of course, like, so fucking perfect. We can only see our version, but the truth is there's 1,000 different realities floating around, and each of us are pretty sure our version of reality is absolutely accurate. And yet in the end, everything's a story. Your story, based on your wounds. Like you've put on coloured lenses over glasses. You just colour your whole world orange, because that's orange is the way you see the world, because of your core wounds, because of your stories. So I just always remind myself that everything is a story, because what is reality? If there was a single event that happened right now, all of us on here, all 21 of us, would see a completely different version of reality and make meaning in 21 completely different ways, because we're all wearing different coloured lenses, which is completely purposeful. That's not random. That's not by accident. That's not infuriating. Not when you can see the perfection of the entire setup. So everything is story. So when our loved ones are stuck in their story, see them with compassion and meet them with gentleness. And same when you are stuck in your story, see yourself with compassion, feel into that tiny place within you or that tiny person who was hurt, and meet them with gentleness. You don't always have to crack the whip to get somewhere. Though, as you know, sometimes I quite enjoy that. Sometimes cushy love isn't the only type of love you need. Adele, you know that feeling well, like a roller coaster. Yes, ripples. Melissa, my purpose is always helping others, but the shape it comes in is always evolving. Exactly. Exactly. How fantastic is that? And how much is that a reminder to never hold too tightly to the way that you perceive or put yourself out in the world as being your defining whatever that makes you who you are? Because who are you really? Because the truth is, one day you're not going to be doing that thing anymore if you're following your purpose, and it'll morph into the next thing. So don't get so stuck to it. It's always changing. So on the everything is story, meeting with compassion and gentleness. Make love to your shadow. Make love to your wounds. Your shadow is the part of yourself that you're unconscious to or of, the part that you can't see in yourself, though likely your most intimate partner will see with such clarity it offends you. I'm laughing because I love it. Like how perfect is that setup? We think we see ourselves, but the truth is the person we're most intimate with sees us far clearer, because it's like the wood for the trees. We can't actually see our own shit. So we create this very human construct of love and belonging that requires that we tether ourselves for connection to someone else, just so we can really have a true mirror of who we are, so we can grow in this game called Earth. Isn't it magnificent? I think it is. I think it is. So make love to your shadow, yours and theirs, your clients, your partners, your lovers, your friends. Yeah, sometimes it's going to be fucking brutal. But when people don't offer us exactly the shape of love that we want, that keeps us comfortable, that's when you really know your level of emotional intelligence. Because what do you do with that? With your imperfect love? With your pillow not fluffed just right? With your world not exactly as you want it in order to stay calm and who you think you are? Because the truth is, true freedom is when you're free and you, regardless of being codependent on an environment or another person or a set of rules that say, I can feel and be me when all of this is like this, but the moment it's not, I'm not me. It's magnificent and terrifying indeed. It's exactly what I think it is. Magnificent and terrifying and devastatingly beautiful. Devastatingly beautiful. Oh. I mean, I'm a lover, but fuck. I often think that's the other gift with coaching couples, is that you have these two people who are just to various extents hating on each other about particular ways of being or belonging to the world. And it's such a reminder to me that whatever it is that you're personally triggered by is there set up for your growth, because I can be a third party to that and I'm not triggered by it at all. And such a reminder for me in my own relationship, right? I mean, a reminder for me in terms of taking it into my own world, of going, fuck, someone else would love this person. I look at these people and I think, fuck, you're so beautiful and I love you. Both of them. And it's such a reminder for me that, you know, in every way you might think your partner's boring or uninteresting or triggering as all heck, there's someone who thinks they're magnificent because they don't have the same glasses or the same lens that you do. So it reminds me to continue to try to remove my lens. Of course, do and do not try is a shitty word, but I see it all as practice. Sometimes you can't do or do not, and we can't live in the world of masculine success or failure, right or wrong, black or white. There has to be a level of compassion and kindness that says this is practice. So make love to your shadow because it is so beautiful. When you work out you're on the same team, you and your shadow, you and your partner, then it just becomes a level of curiosity. What you become curious about can become a revelation, right? But if you're not curious about it, you miss the opportunity to dive into it. If you don't dive into it, you miss the opportunity to get the gold and have an experience of transmutation and the Philosopher's Stone. So you end up like the alchemist, don't you? Traveling the world in search of the thing, only to realize it was buried under the very tree you began at. Or maybe you don't ever realize that. Emma, far out. When your partner illuminates your shadow, it's like, I mean, thank you, but also screw you. Yes, it is. It is. It so is. But that's where I think I have this beautiful blessing of seeing with this more bird's eye. I want to say I get this ability to have this slightly more godlike perception as opposed to when you're in it, because I get when you're in it you can't see your own stuff, it's wood for the trees, like same with me with my intimacy, right? But me being able to observe someone else's intimacy is the greatest teacher in the whole world, because I really get to see and I can say, yeah, fuck, that's me, that's Nick, yeah, shit, okay, this is where I'm at, all right. I can see it from here though, so it's just those more meaning. Yes, of course. It is. All those things. There's a nature quote like that, I think. She is terrifying and beautiful all at once, like nature herself. Who don't you love, Julie? I don't know. Loving is a conscious practice for me. You and Nick sometimes, Bridgie. That is true intimacy, isn't it? So good. So good. I think I did a quote, like a post on Nourishing the Mother the other day that was like, fuck, like true love really is when it moves away from being infatuation, which says, I love you when you treat me like this and my world is like that and you remain as this. It's this version of conditional love. It's infatuation. When you're like this, I love you. When you're something outside of that, I hate you. But when you have a framework for seeing how it's all love and it's just instead of going out, you go ugh, in. All right, I'm going to look at what this is. I'm going to look at this lotus and blooming it out of the water. It gives you this beautiful opportunity to love with such devotional grace that you wonder if you ever knew what love was. So if love doesn't have a level of revulsion and repulsion and rub, it's like Rumi's quote, right? Like if we arc against every, I'm paraphrasing, it's not exactly his quote, but if we, arc up at every rub, how will your mirror ever be polished? So I actually think it's completely functional to have a relationship in which there's a tension point between love and hate, as long as you have a connection point that brings you together to, we're on the same team and this is my work, and off I go. Because I know I've attracted whoever I attract in intimacy. Now Bridget and I are enormously intimate. We're like another relationship, right? So when you become a partnership in business and you share so much of your life together, and I've been at 2 of Bridget's births, you know, like, I mean, we've shared some of the deepest, richest, and I think I outsourced a lot of my relationship to Bridget, and certainly have over the years. And when you have a relationship that's that deep, the profoundness of the love has to be equilibrated by the richness of intimacy. And the richness of intimacy is when the other sees you greater than you see yourself, and at the same time has their own reflection that triggers them into their own growth. Like, it's such a perfect setup, though on a human level deeply painful. But I actually think it's true love. So you love it? Is that for me? I do love it. God damn it. I was saying that today. Even though I was speaking to Kasha, I don't know if you're still on, but I was talking about my book journey, and I was like, oh God, it has been the most brutal process. I just feel like a banana this entire year that's just been like peeled with layers of identity. Like, they just keep being peeled off me like a skin, and it's like the most horrendous process. It's so painful. But there's this part of me that also fucking loves the sacrifice of it all. I'm like, oh my God, I hate it, but I fucking love it as well. I love the growth. I love the revelation. I love the depth and the clarity and the knowing and the insight, but fuck, the human part of it, right? Like, it's brutal. So, Mal, if your partner loves you, they want to know all the things they love and hate you. Bloody mirror intimacy. Yeah. Yeah. I know. The interesting thing is, though, you will get clients that mirror you too. So as a practitioner, you probably have heard, or perhaps yourself if you are a practitioner, you see strings of the same condition or same dynamic or same, whatever. Well, this is why you want to make sure that you're being the wounded healer in the form that you've healed your wounds and transcended them so that they become wisdom, as opposed to a gaping wound. Because if it's a gaping wound, you will become the energetic vibration for that gaping wound rather than the energetic vibration for the clarity and the wisdom. And you will attract clients who just keep hitting that nerve. The growth and the satisfaction of doing it, Melissa. Yeah, I know, it's addictive, isn't it? That's why some of us are like personal development junkies. So you got to be able to balance that, don't you, between being here and present and in it, and having the revelations on a soul level. We have got way off topic tonight. That's what I enjoy. It is what I enjoy. The last point that I have here is, what is worthy suffering? So when we're talking about this, right, the pain and the growth, what is worthy suffering, and what is I'm stuck in it and I'm procrastinating? I'm not saying I have the answers to that, but when we're considering your stories are your gift to heal, I always think it's worth asking, am I growing here? Is this suffering worth and worthy? Is this suffering a growth that peels that banana of identity back or cracks the shell in order to be rebirthed? Or am I bogged in something here? In which case I'm just wounded. And I perhaps have forgotten that I'm a self-healing, self-cleaning being, always trying to seek homeostasis and balance. I guess that's why some people like exercising. What is that for? Suffering or procrastination is what we're talking about, because they enjoy the suffering of exercising. Is that what you mean? You are those people. I don't know, but I've certainly come across them though, haven't I? It's interesting exercise, isn't it? Much like health. There can be a tipping point between when it's useful and when it becomes a bypass. You do both. Must be a sucker of a punishment. We all choose our pain though, don't we? We all choose our pain. We'll choose our pain in our top values. And we'll choose which is the greater pain because we're pleasure seeking, pain avoiding. So which one offers us the most pleasure out of the two pains, whether it's exercise or perhaps being in stillness and shedding identity, we're going to pick the one that offers us that, right? So, but this is my point, is what is procrastination and what is worthy suffering? What is spiritual bypass and using anything that we use to distract ourselves, right? Exercise, meditation, EFT, tapping, shopping, eating, drinking, gambling, smoking, any numbing, any of sex. What is a bypass of that which we cannot be with? In which case we keep looping into it. What is worthy suffering? And what is I've forgotten that I can transcend and I'm a self-healing being? I just think they're always the most worthy questions to ask yourself, the client you have in front of you, the pattern loop that you're on. So we're all looping something. The minute you clear one, you just loop into the next one. Hopefully the growth and the pleasure expands, but I mean, that's the truth of it, isn't it? So that is what I wanted to talk to you about tonight. Your stories are your gift to heal in this world. Your stories come with superpowers, and you want to take your superpowers with you to unlock the next level. But you can only do that when you've gone back and you've loved that moment into gratitude to the point your heart bursts and you couldn't change a thing because you see it all. You see the suffering of the child and the adult that moved forwards. And you see the enormity of love that existed in that exact same moment. The lesson that you incarnated, the superpower that you wouldn't change now. And you carry it forwards. No tree can go to heaven unless its roots reach down to hell, right? So that's it. That's all I had tonight. I hope if you're thinking about it, you'll come and join me in Embark. It is the last time that it'll be at the introductory price of $22.22. Then it really is going to go up to the 6 months because I invest my heart and soul in it for 6 months. 6 months, divine container. I want you to learn all things energy, movement, magnetism in your own body, setting up sacred space and being an energetic vibration that people open up into. So after that, it goes, after the 21st of October, it will go up to $44.44. So if you are thinking about it and that's a concern for you, then now would be the time. Otherwise, and we'll be here this time next year. I'm excited to have you in there too, Melissa. I think it'll be rad. I'm always excited to see what incredible things women do with what they learn there, because of course we can all learn the same tool and we'll transcend it into our own art form and carry it forwards. And I think that's always the point, isn't it? So I hope you join me with that. You can find out more at thepleasurenutritionist.com. or on Facebook or Instagram. The links will be there. Or you can drop me a message as well. That'll be cool. It was good to see. Well, not see, but see some faces. Down the side at least. Profile pics. I always love just hanging out. Super cool. Alright, I'm going to finish my tea. And go be with my lover. So, I'll see ya. Thanks for being here.